Hello, journaling friends. I am here to read you some of my pages and my process for today. This has been a really fun practice of mine that I've been sort of straddling between YouTube and different social media forums and Instagram and Facebook, and kind of finding where it feels like a natural little home. So most recently, I found that being in practice, like actual practice writing with you, has felt really nourishing. And I've been doing that on my Patreon. So if you would like to join me in somatic attunement and stream of consciousness writing for 3 pages at a time, we do that about once a week. And for right now, it feels like Wednesdays are the days that I've been aligned to set to publish. So if you'd like to join me over there in practice, I would feel so good to invite you into my journaling community over on Patreon, if you'd like to become one of my patrons. The concept of doing the stream of consciousness writing practice from a place of somatic attunement for me is really about like sourcing one's inner senses and what's happening inside of ourselves and finding voices for our inner parts. And there's a lot of therapeutic approaches to doing inner parts therapy. There's inner family systems as one of the therapy models for that. I, as a performing artist, actor, dancer, educator, creative storyteller, I've definitely utilized a lot of experiences of what has felt like channeling. And as I've looked into how people consciously choose to channel, it's helped me find safer and more consistent ways to kind of tap into different energies, as well as learning how to model my language in what it is that I'm finding to be able to have a conversation, so that there's a healthy aspect of me always in conversation with whatever inner parts that are arising that might be frustrated or demanding or rageful or fearful or terrified even, so that a healthy aspect of myself can be in connection and communication with this other parts of myself. And if that healthy aspect gets irritated, then I let it be almost like couples therapy, metaphorically, and I create another higher wisdom for myself to be able to navigate what's going on between, almost like a scene, and or a kind of like, what's that called? Mediation, like a mediation, to really find out what's the unmet need underneath my feelings, underneath my body sensations. We spend so much time in our lives going, running, in sort of the way that culture and society ask us to show up in order to be, bigger, better, faster than we were last time, and whatever thing we were doing. And there's a lot of anxiety driven activity that we are encouraged and also often rewarded for showing up in our lives, whether that's our family or our work, or other kinds of interpersonal relationships, dynamics, even with even with ourselves. Sometimes we think that that's how we can take care of ourselves. Like our self-care somehow also has to be like tapped into our adrenals and like act like we have to, drink the healthy drink and do the healthy exercise and wake up earlier and get all the tasks done sooner. And it's not that those things aren't lovely and wonderful, and like accomplishing them can help you have a state of ease because you feel more organized or more clarity around where you're at. But I really like to think about but where is the space inside of us that's coming from? What's the underlying resonant emotion or vibration or experience? And if that had a voice, what would it say? And am I kind back to it, or am I not treating that particular voice very kindly. And oftentimes, because we pattern the way we are in our lives, we learn a lot of patterns through how we were brought up. You may find that some of the ways you are interacting mirror the way you and your parents interacted, or the way your parents interacted with each other. So, or siblings, if you have siblings, how you and your sibling dynamics were. A lot of early childhood experiences in the ways in which we are connecting or not connecting with certain aspects of our inner parts can be a really beautiful healing ground to source into maybe what's not working and how you could show up differently for yourself in yourself, and then extend that same kind of relatability to the outward relationships in your lives. So you can learn a lot about what isn't working inside of yourself from almost a more empathetic space, to then go back into your other outside connections and know, like, you know, I have to set a boundary with you here, or like, oh, you know, I never thought that what you were doing made any sense, but after some inner reflection, I realized that you might feel XYZ. Is that how you feel? And you might be able to find more empathy, more connection, more sympathetic attunement to some of the connections and community in your life. So that's sort of my interest in what it seems to be that we're doing here. And, you know, sometimes I feel very peaceful doing this, like right now. Other times I feel highly activated and I'm just trying to work through everything. So know that, like, with my pages in process, part of this is also like I'm in a process. And so this is me sharing when I read my pages where I'm at, and then I process them aloud with you. And maybe you'll gain some insight from that. Maybe you'll see some mirrors. Maybe you'll see someone else that you know in your life and some of the things I say, or aspects of yourself. And if that's the case, I would love to hear from you, and any ways that what I say or share resonates. Sometimes my stream of consciousness isn't interpersonal at all, and it's just sort of this wash of like essence. It's been less that these last couple of days, but it is sometimes that as well. Okay, so here we go. We're going to read. August 30th, 2021. Today I write just for me, alone on my couch with the AC on and a Zoom setup that I will not be using in the time and the way I had anticipated. There is a soft hush in my mind as I write these words. My mind and I have been finding new ways to work with one another lately. I feel so much trauma in my mind, like wires on fire, a hot scramble, a tearing through for control, a desperation while trying to figure something out. The reality that pandemic unemployment benefits and end in a matter of a few days is a reality for me. The clarity that I feel really strong in the direction of my projects is another very clear sense of knowing inside of my heart. The knowing care that my own mind speaks volumes and kindly considers many options, yet is consistently questioning its own worth. My mind's self-worth feels very low and codependently tied up in performance-based validity. I am finding greater clarity here for my own practices. Those words came out, but I felt my mind harden and my jaw clench in response. So something doesn't sit right with the hurt and hurting part of my mind. I feel it want to fixate, grab, and grapple with me, and I'm not quite sure how to engage with it in a safe way. Here's me trying. It's a little back and forth dialogue. Me. Hello, hardened brain. Hardened brain. You're calling me names now. Great. Metaphoric eye roll. Me. What would you like me to call you? Brain. Just brain is fine. I mean, all-knowing brain. All-knowing brain power would feel great, but you wouldn't do that. Me. You're right. That feels a little much. That feels like a little much, but I'm comfortable calling you brain. Shall we agree to that for the sake of our conversation right now? Brain, ugh, whatever, sure, fine, go ahead. Me, you sound exasperated. Are you feeling exasperation? Brain, well, duh. You had a whole big conversation with exasperation yesterday or the day before, or the day before whenever it was really, I don't know. So it's really not news that I'm experiencing exasperation. Me, would you like to share more about that? Brain, no. Me, okay. Is there anything else you would like to say or share about yourself? Brain, yeah, but also I kind of feel like, what's the point? You know, we've been here like a million times before, and there's so much about yourself that goes unnoticed. And like, where do you go with that? How do you even begin? Me, I heard you say that you feel like there's no point to, that there's no point, and that you're experiencing being unnoticed for so long. So, okay, let me clarify before I keep going. So what I'm doing here is I'm mirroring back exactly what I heard my brain say, because it felt defensive and kind of like deflective and maybe a little attacky. So I'm just trying to not take it personally, and I'm mirroring back exactly what I heard it say, which was, I heard you say that you feel like there's no point, and that you've experienced being unnoticed for so long that you're not sure how to start sharing about yourself or where/what direction to take in conversation. Did I hear that right? So asking for clarification. Brain, you bet that's right. I have so much to offer, and you just let me run on autopilot instead of collaborating with me. It feels like all or nothing. Either you piece out and make me run on overdrive, or you take the wheel and don't let me be included or have a say. It feels really unfair. So that was a lot of like potentially like, oh, am I doing that kind of stuff, right? But yet brain was still very like highly activated and intense. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna feel into an additional aspect of my conscious awareness. So which today I called higher wisdom. So I brought higher wisdom in. Higher wisdom says, do you see, Marissa, how you are impacting brain? So it's like, I needed a little like, how do I reflect in a way that I don't then become self-attacking on myself? So I brought in higher wisdom to help ask me questions about it, right? So that was the question. Do you see, Marissa, how you're impacting your brain? Me, yes. I hear that my brain feels unincluded or overburdened and would really like to work collaboratively. Higher wisdom, brain, does that sound accurate? Brain, also, she sucks. Brain is very reactive right now. Me, higher wisdom, I don't wish to be spoken to in that way, and I'm not wanting to be offloaded upon by brain's frustration. Higher wisdom, I hear that you're uncomfortable with brain's approach to communication. Is that right? Right. So higher wisdom's reflecting back to me what higher wisdom heard. Me, yes, I am filtering my thoughts in order to not incite further discord. But in short, I'm not comfortable with the way brain speaks to me, and I have done a lot of work to heal from these kinds of dynamics. I'm just not interested in stepping back into an area of collaborative practices with a part of me that is sending off so many red flags. Brain, well, that sounds very clear and also very judgmental. You don't know me. You don't know what I'm going through, what I've gone through, ... So that was brain being reactive, not higher wisdom, right? Then Marissa, in response to brain. Brain, we share Marissa's, or me, talking about me. Brain, we share Marissa's being and body, and I am privy to a whole lot of the experience. While your particular functions are specific to the brain, I am looking out for the holistic well-being of Marissa's whole system. And I am not comfortable with the way you are shooting your energy at me right now. Higher wisdom needed to ask a question. How might there be a way forward? Brain, there's not a way forward as long as I don't want to participate. I filibuster. Me. I don't know. Is that the right term? Use of filibuster? Maybe. Um, Basically, brain's like, I'm stopping. I'm not working. I'm not participating. And good luck without me. I refuse to participate. So you can't find a way forward without me. If your goal is to figure out how we work together, I'm not going to work with you. It's basically what brain had said. Me in response. I see you trying to push and hold power over the situation. I recognize the way this is something you've learned to do out of modeling and necessity, but it does not work with me, and I'm not going to play your game. And cycle of my journal. So that's where I left off this morning. That was my 3 pages. So I used to just go and go and go until I processed a thing, and you can do that if you want to. Sometimes we need to do that. Sometimes it's important to, like, when you're in the midst of some sort of stream of consciousness writing. And I recognize, like, I am making choices within my stream of consciousness in this particular method that I'm using in this particular 3 pages that I wrote. So because I've been doing journaling practices for so long, sometimes I like just instinctually start putting form into my stream of consciousness. Like my stream of consciousness goes, I want this form. And then we just start to do it. Right. So it's not that I'm like, what's going to work here and take time out. I just kind of go. But my synapses in my brain are, because I've been practicing this kind of work for so long, making those kinds of choices in like split seconds. Right. So if you do choose to take up this kind of practice and that doesn't come quickly to you, one, it's totally normal that it doesn't. Two, this is a learned practice as well as like just this deeply practiced practice of like probably maybe about 8 years now or so. I've been writing 3 pages a day for, I'll have periods of time when I stop and I pause and I don't do that. But for a large part, I've been writing 3 pages a day, stream of consciousness upon waking up, and then also doing journaling exercises outside of it with like different kinds of prompts and different sort of list forms and different kind of dynamics, or writing letters to myself, or different people or aspects of my life. And so I have a lot of like tools that I've used from like a grief workbook that I have. Julia Cameron's work is really great with The Artist's Way and her other books that have a lot of prompts. So I highly recommend those resources as well. And yeah, and just giving yourself time. I think that sometimes we want a quick fix. We want it to be okay right away. We want to like heal the relationship and there to be like a simple answer. And sometimes there's not. And sometimes you have to be like, okay, this isn't working right now. And I have to kind of be honest about that. Sort of like in our waking relationships, whether you are in an experience of finding new friends, or maybe finding a new romantic partner, right? Sometimes there's a fit and sometimes there's not a fit. And sometimes it's like, well, we're coworkers, we have to find a way to make this work, but we wouldn't necessarily have chosen to be together outside of here, which is sort of like my brain and my personal experience are kind of in this space right now where it's like, it doesn't make sense for us to move forward. We're not compatible at this time. So what I did, because I'm also like an energy healer, state certified body worker, performing artist, educator, all of that stuff, I've noticed and noted that like so much of what can be helpful is to just provide safe space for healing, especially around the highly activated parts of myself or others. So brain was clearly like in a brain didn't feel safe. And so brain was acting and reacting in an unsafe way. So brain is going to, in this journaling exercise, my brain is going to need a lot of rehabilitation and time and new environments and practices and interactions with me and higher wisdom and or other aspects of self that might come in to learn what trustworthiness is, how to sense it in others, but how to also bring it forward in itself. And so what I did was I just went to bed, and since it was in my brain, I use a lot of like just hands healing, you can imagine, you can rub your hands together, get the energy flowing, and then you can kind of just feel like there's a vibration between. And in cultures all over the world, there's lots of laying on of hands that provide healing energies. And you can do that on yourself too if you feel there's a part of constriction. So when you're writing, you might feel something somatically in tune to your heart, and you might be writing out all the anger and rage of your heart, right? You also don't have to be in dialogue with them right away. You can just get the sense of knowing, like, what is it they even say, uncensored, right? And I've spent a lot of time doing that. Get to know yourself. But then I went and I laid down, I took a long, deep nap. I just sort of like put my hands on my head and tried to help my brain space feel safe. Tried to feel the sensation of care around the part of me that was so hyper reactive. And I've been working in this way with my brain for probably years now. So it's taken a long time for me to find the nuances of what, how, where, what kind of relational, how do I not be pushy? How do I not like, come on, brain, get better. Come on, brain, get better. Because that's not safe for brain. It really, truly has to be like, I'm just giving you care. It's not about changing you right now. I just know you don't feel safe. So I'm just going to like put my hands here, or wherever. And just my intention is to help you feel safe. So with that in mind, how can you extend a little bit of safety to yourself today? How can you give yourself a metaphoric or an actual hug? Whether that's by rolling up in a blanket and spending some time in the fetal position, whether that means making yourself a warm mug before you have a hard conversation with someone, whether that means going on a walk and breathing some fresh air, if that's what suits you, but really sensing into what would help me feel safe or free, protected or liberated, whatever it is you feel you need, because at different points in our lives, we need different things on different days and different moments. So we have I have a really loud street sometimes go by. So I just had a motorcycle travel, but that's for the most of it today, is just how do you extend the hurting parts of yourself a little comfort, and see what arises from that. Because when we can learn to trust ourselves, we can start to become trustworthy of others, but also of our own life and how we're tending to our own needs and our own experience of the kind of impact we make upon the world, but also the kind of impact we make upon ourselves with the kind of self conversations we have internally. So I wish you a holistic and integrative experience of who you are and how you communicate inside and outside. And know that if you're not there yet, or if you're very far away from getting to a place where that feels accessible to you, that you're so not alone. And this is such a big undertaking to choose to step into. Self-inquiry can be very revealing, and sometimes it reveals beautiful, wonderful, and incredible things, and other times it reveals aspects of ourselves we may have not been wanting to see quite so clearly. And if we can learn to witness ourselves from a place of non-judgment, discernment, but with an awareness that whatever coping strategies, however maladaptive, have shown up, they have shown up for a reason. And that's the case for really all humans. That's my experience and belief, and how I've seen and witnessed a lot of the healing experiences of my own work with performing artists and the general public kind of cultivate into. So with that, I wish you all deep-hearted sense of belonging. If you'd like to join me on Patreon for some writing sessions, I would so love to welcome you there. Okay, have a great day. Mwah.